For weeks now, we have been seeing the reports, especially in clips on social media, about Ruto, the president, receiving hostile reception as he tries to speak to the people. And you know, if you're wise, you don't believe everything you see on social media. You're doubtful. Especially at this time, when so many are desperately chasing after something called views and turning their videos viral. You can't be sure. You have to be careful. But yesterday, that story broke out into mainstream media. First of all, we have to appreciate and fully understand its significance. You are the president of a country. Many places you go to, people jeer, people talk back to you. What's the big deal? Maybe it's not important. Maybe it'll have zero effect on the presidency. We need to look into that and confirm whether what I've just said is true or not. Although I know to older Kenyans, it is rather obvious. You see, this is one of the very big mysteries of the Ruto presidency. And that mystery is, many of the things the Ruto administration has done do not make any political sense. None at all. And that is a huge mystery. Because when you're a politician, there are some basic rules that apply to every politician on the planet. There are some basic rules that have always applied since the beginning of time. Even very powerful people have always been terrified by the politics. And this did not start yesterday. John the Baptist was a very popular prophet. And therefore, even though Herod had him arrested, and he did this very reluctantly, he was still in a very difficult position politically, despite his power. Why? Because John the Baptist was very popular with the people. And remember, this was occupied Israel, under their colonial masters, the Romans. It was not even a democratic system like Kenya is supposed to be. So how do you explain a political president pushing the Finance Bill 2023 very hard, and then after that raiding the pockets of ordinary citizens through tax after tax, increase of fuel prices, etc., etc.? How does that make sense politically? You tell me. It is very strange. And the mystery deepens after that, because after you've done all these things against Kenyans, against the voters, indeed what you have done has touched each and every person on Kenyan soil negatively. After doing all that, you go out in your motorcade and you attempt to speak to the people. What do you expect to happen? This is a mystery. Do you expect the Kenyans pushed to the corner, finding life so difficult, to cheer you on? Do you even expect them to listen to you? Indeed, in my opinion, Kenyans are very polite people, very level-headed, in fact extremely level-headed people. To even listen to a single word that comes out of such a leader, that is human nature, that is the reality. Now, I'm very much aware of what some people have been saying, indeed since the campaigns, even before the elections. They have been saying that many Kenyans turn up for Ruto meetings because they expect a handout. And indeed in some meetings, money has been distributed. Even recently, in Nyanza, for instance. And of course, the whole smart objective would be for the purposes of perception. Because you see the TV cameras rolling there, people watch on their screens and they see people cheering the president. And those Kenyans who are determined to stick to the mirage that everything is okay, drink in this very hungrily, very thirstily, everything is okay. Watch on the TV. He's addressing people on the streets. People are listening. Some people are cheering. And this is not the Rift Valley, etc., etc. And if it is true that handouts is what has been bringing Kenyans into these meetings that Ruto holds, impromptu meetings, impromptu meet the people meetings, then we all need to get very worried about what has been happening. A lot of it not reported. For instance, in Western Kenya, about a month ago, Ruto received a very hostile reception from the Mulembe Nation. And remember, the Mulembe Nation are a major beneficiary of the Kenya Kwanza government. The Chief Secretary hails from this area. Despite all that, he received a very, very hostile reception from ordinary Kenyans. Some very good damage control, controlling the media hapa na pale. That one did not make it into mainstream media. Even on social media, we didn't have convincing clips to prove it happened. But it happened. Now in the most recent incident in Mombasa, it was very obvious. People were talking back. Indeed, we saw very clearly in the clip, the president hurriedly cut short his speech, got back into his vehicle, and drove off. That was very obvious from that clip. Now, of course, such things make Azimio supporters very happy. They make Raila Odinga supporters so happy, over the moon. But I urge you, at least for a few minutes, forget your emotions. Let's leave emotions out of this and coldly analyze the possible consequences of a head of state who is finding it increasingly difficult to address his people. People are supposed to be his people. And let us start with a very simple question. Why should a leader who is not elected by the people be worried about the politics, about the reaction of the vast majority of the people? Why should they be worried? After all, these people are not responsible for his or her power. They are not responsible for his appointment. But still, they are terrified. They are worried about public opinion. Let's answer that question first. And let us simplify it into a situation where an individual attracts the wrath of the crowd, the wrath of the people, the wrath of the mob. What usually happens? Simply put, unpopularity towards a leader, even an appointed leader, history clearly tells us, if not checked, if not reversed, usually ends up in that leader losing their position. And this is not my opinion. I need to make that very clear. It is a truism. It is the reality that has been there since the beginning of time. You're the leader of a criminal gang, for instance, and majority of the members of that gang rise up against you. Are you going to continue to be the leader? Of course not. And so consequence number one from this rising hostility against Ruto, coming directly from the people, consequence number one is that it greatly endangers the Ruto presidency. Consequence number 2, it endangers Kenyans all over the country. How so? Because hostility sometimes can lead to widespread violence. And this is one of the reasons why I told you to remove emotions from this analysis. Because we now need to see how it is a danger to all of us, not just to the Ruto presidency. And that's the truth. What should be absolutely clear to anybody trying to analyze what is going on in Kenya right now is the fact that punda imechoka, tena imechoka sana. The people of Kenya are tired. They're fed up. That is really the truth. And this hostility against Ruto very clearly illustrates that fact to those of us who may still be doubting. But there is something much more traumatizing that all this is telling us. Remember the prophecy? Overturn, overturn, overturn. I believe from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 21, verse 27. Remember that prophecy? Way back in 2017. Allow me to tackle that topic in my next video. Don't miss it. And considering this pain, in case you've not yet had the chance to take in my latest sizzler, the Ruto Kenyans will never know, there is a unique opportunity over the next 24 hours to do so. If you feel that you need this very important content and your budget doesn't quite cut it to enable you to get your hands on it, for the next 24 hours, you can name your price. Lakini usinifinye sana. And for that reason, the limit will be 50. The first 50 to send me an email. On that email address you see on your screens right now, you miss this at gmail.com, naming your price. And then guess what? I will also throw in another valuable Kumekucha book. You can choose for yourself, or you can allow me to choose for you. The most liked of my other ebooks, of course, is Dark Secrets of the Kenyan Presidency, How Mutula Kilonzo Sr. was murdered. And then there's another one called The President's Lovers. Now that last one, one of you took it in recently, and they were delighted, very excited about it. And yes, it talks about a Kenyan president. And so, you have this very exciting opportunity. Please take full advantage of it. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.